It's when they say Mr. Whatever.
My name is John Weber. I work for the Surfrider Foundation. We, of course, are all here to make sure that New York Governor Cuomo vetoes this LNG facility. And I think we're going to show the depth and breadth of the coalition against this facility through sheer numbers. Through the sheer number of people speaking today, we're going to show the depth and breadth of that coalition. So we have Cassandra Ornell from Clean Ocean Action. Stick your hand up really high. Okay. Okay.
Yes.
And all right, cool.
Thanks, John. Hi, everyone. My name is Cassandra Ornell. I work for Clean Ocean Action. We are a coalition of over 115 groups. We're based in New Jersey, but we work from Cape May to Montauk, and we've been fighting ocean pollution, ocean industrialization for 30 years now. And it's really exciting to see so many different groups here tonight, and I will be very brief with my comments. We have a lot of good speakers coming up. So the main thing I want to say is that dirty energy does not belong in our ocean. We have worked hard to get our oceans clean and keep them that way. LNG ports, there's a lot of problems with them. They are a target for terrorism. They threaten fishing. They threaten our jobs, our tourism industry. They are a disaster for our climate. Port Ambrose would bring tankers as long as the Empire State Building is tall into and near the entrance of the New York Harbor. These are filled with extremely volatile fuels. Is this a security risk that we want to take?
Absolutely not.
No. In fact, a Government Accountability Office report found that the Coast Guard is already overburdened and struggling to meet their own self-imposed security targets. Do we really want to give them even more things to worry about? Exactly. Furthermore, Port Ambrose would exclude long-standing activities such as fishing from an ecologically productive swath of the ocean, and Liberty offers these fishermen no compensation for their inevitable economic losses. For these reasons and many others that I'm sure people here that speaking tonight will discuss, we need to stop this project. It cannot move forward. So that is why we need to raise our voices, we the people, and tell the government that this project should not go forward and they should adopt a no-action alternative to this environmental impact statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Cassandra. All right. Our next speaker needs no introduction. It's Eric Weltman from Food and Water Watch. But I have to say something. When Governor Cuomo banned fracking, what I said to myself was, what on earth is Eric Weltman going to do with his time? Okay? Because this is a man who bird-dogged the governor every turn, every step he took. Eric was there leading a protest, making sure that we did not get fracking in New York State. Eric.
Thank you. Well, evidently you already know this, but my name is Eric Weltman, and I'm a senior organizer with Food and Water Watch. When Liberty Natural Gas says this project is for importing natural gas, don't believe them. If Port Ambrose is approved, sooner or later, this project will surely be converted into an export facility. That would mean an increased demand for fracking throughout the Northeast, and that is unacceptable. That is unacceptable. Fracking is an inherently dangerous and polluting drilling method that puts our health, water, and climate at risk. Port Ambrose equals fracking. Port Ambrose equals fracking, and we're urging Governor Cuomo to continue to doing the right thing by issuing a veto of this dangerous project. We're in a region that was hard hit by Superstorm Sandy. Climate change is a reality for the communities that were victims of this devastating storm. Port Ambrose would deepen our dependence on the dirty fossil fuels that cause climate change. Several weeks ago, Governor Cuomo made the courageous decision to defy the interests of the oil and gas industry and to protect public health, and the environment by banning fracking in New York. We are hopeful that Governor Cuomo will maintain his leadership in rejecting fracking, preventing climate change, and reducing our dependence on dirty fossil fuels by vetoing this dangerous project. Remember, Port Ambrose equals fracking. Port Ambrose equals climate change. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Eric. Okay, pinch hitting, who just flew in on a bus, is Nikita Scott from the New York City chapter of the Surfrider Foundation. She's going to talk to us about impacts on the ocean. You need to hold this and speak.
Hi everyone, my name is Nikita Scott and I'm a volunteer and the LNG representative for the Surfrider Foundation New York City chapter.
If that's not amplified, you just have to project it.
Okay. The Surfrider Foundation vows to defend the future of our oceans, beaches and waves, and Port Ambrose is a tremendous threat to these. Years ago, New York's beaches were considered too unsafe for use. Today, our oceans and beaches facilitate many recreational activities and are playing a huge part in our booming tourism industry. We should be celebrating this, but instead we're faced with the prospect of Port Ambrose. Port Ambrose will dredge up over 20 miles of seabed, and with it, all the years of pollution that's buried underneath. It will excrete millions of gallons of chemically polluted seawater into our oceans and create underwater noise pollution. The chains that will be part of the Port Ambrose structure will constantly move and scrub the seabed, disrupting the surrounding ecosystem. Port Ambrose is going to leave a huge, dirty and permanent footprint on our coast. The effort and determination it's taken to get to this point we are at now will have been in vain if Port Ambrose is allowed to go ahead. We are being asked to sacrifice our beaches and our oceans to LNG when there are other more suitable options such as solar and wind.
Amen. You said it.
These options have little to no impact on our ocean and complement the current ecosystem rather than threaten it. To see how far we have come in cleaning up our ocean, not only can we look at the growing number of New Yorkers that now come to our beaches, but we can look at the growing number of whales that visit our coastline. In 2014, Gotham Whale, a local whale watching company, states that there were over 106 whales sighted off our shores, many of which were in the site proposed for Port Ambrose. This has increased from 5 whales in 2011. That's an increase of over 20 times. This is a huge indication of how the ecosystem is thriving, as cleaner waters have resulted in an abundance of fish that are now able to support these whales. Whales that not only pass through but are returning again and again. We have been able to come back from a point of no return when it comes to the pollution of our oceans. We must not rely on being expected to do so again. It doesn't seem right to thwart this progress and willingly agree to pollute our oceans and threaten our marine life. Our oceans and beaches are an asset to this state and our people, and they should be treated with the care and respect that they deserve. Our elected officials have a sworn duty to protect and preserve this, not just for us, but for future generations. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Nikita. All right, also adding to our starting lineup, we have a bunch of elected officials that have joined us now, so I want to recognize everybody. We have Donovan Richards from the New York City Council. He's the chair of the Environmental Protection Committee there. So we also have from this great city of Long Beach, who has come out strongly against it. We have Anthony Eramo. We have Fran Edelson. Where did you go, Fran? She's on this side. It's hard to see from here. And we have Len Torres, and we have City Manager Jack Schoenman. So thank you all for coming. Appreciate that. It's really hard to see all the faces. Are there any other elected leaders here that I need to recognize? Okay. So I'm going to turn it over to the New York City Councilman. Mr. Richards, here you go. Thank you.
Well, anybody feeling fired up to stop this? Yeah! Well, you didn't sound like you were excited. Well, first I want to start off by saying we certainly were celebrating a huge victory with Food and Water Watch and so many others in this particular room a little while ago, and I think many of us in this room were obviously opposed to fracking. And we're glad and grateful that the governor saw fit to make the right decision in terms of fracking, which brings us here today. I think the governor obviously has another chance to get this right. And I want to start by saying, first off, I'm certainly opposed, and as a representative of the Rockaways, but also surrounding part of JFK, Laurelton, Rosedale, and Springfield Gardens, I'm certainly, first off, opposed for security reasons, in terms of security reasons. Now, let's start off with some facts, and I'm just going to go through 4 points in terms of LNG. Well, LNG... with LNG released into the environment, it is extremely volatile and poses significant safety risk. Once exposed to LNG vapor, it would be hot enough, and it can be hot enough to melt steel at distances of 1,200 feet or result in second-degree burns on exposed skin a mile away, which means that I'm putting at least 160,000 people I represent, and obviously my next-door neighbor is Long Beach. We're not interested in putting our constituents in harm's way. The other thing is LNG tankers and facilities will pose serious security risk. And we all know that JFK on a regular day is a target. Let's be clear. And considering the proximity of the port miles from New York and New Jersey Harbor and in the communities located near JFK between Broad Channel and other communities for commerce, including chemical and oil tankers, hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers and tens of millions of dollars in commerce and related revenue will be susceptible to risk. And I say that again. Communities that surround the airport, businesses that surround the airport, this is a detriment to them as well. Let's get to the third fact now. LNG will not further any resilient or efficient and environmental goals that this city and state is trying to make. And we need to be moving towards 100% renewable energy. And we can't do that moving backwards. We have to move forwards. Natural gas extractions, obviously hydraulic fracturing, has proven to be the most detrimental to human health and to the environment. And I remember taking a trip with Food and Water Watch just this past summer up to Pennsylvania. And we always get the industry saying, well, we're going to create a lot of jobs. Yeah. And we're gonna help small businesses. But what we saw when we went to Pennsylvania is we saw the opposite. So whenever the industry speaks of how they are going to create good jobs, I always point back to that community in Pennsylvania. LNG Port Ambrose would put coastal communities at risk in the future occurrences of heavy storms and hurricanes. As a representative of the Rockaways, and I know Long Beach went through this too, we were hit very hard by Hurricane Sandy, and we cannot afford anything else that is going to put our particular communities at risk. So with that being said, these are just some of the facts that I've laid out. There's still so much more that I can lay out today, but in the interest of time and other speakers, I'm obviously going to get off this stage. But what I do want to say is that we have an opportunity to get this right. And let's not trade one bad thing for another bad thing. We got fracking right. Now it's time for the governor to kill LNG. And it's time for us, once again, to move towards 100% renewable energy. God bless you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Councilman. All right, keep moving along here. We're going to get you in on time. There's a legislator here that's made a part-time job of fighting LNG probably for 8 years now, probably going back to 2006, and that's Dave Deneberg. Dave.
Thank you. Thank you. As we just heard from our great councilman, it's time to say LNG no, renewables now. LNG no, renewables now. LNG no, renewables now. LNG no, renewables now. Very, very simply, LNG, if, as they say, it's for import, we say no because, hey, natural gas, 98% self-reliant on domestic production. Why create for a fossil fuel, for a polluting fuel, an import vessel offshore that at any rate could clearly discharge millions of gallons of chemically treated water into our ocean? LNG, no. LNG, no. If it's for export, we just said no to fracking. Thank you, Governor Cuomo. Thank you, Governor Cuomo. So we don't want it for export. If it's for import, why are we going to put domestic production out? LNG, no. LNG, no. LNG, no. Now let me say this about renewable. The only way we can really force or help renewables is by stopping artificial competition from overseas with LNG or even domestic with exporting through fracking. If we're serious about renewable, now, create an environment where renewable energy can thrive. It certainly can thrive. It certainly can thrive if we're putting LNG ports, sea islands. We've said no before. We need to say no now. And I will say to John Weber, I may be fighting this for 8 years. Have I been fighting it alone? No. I didn't start it. You did. I won't finish it. You will. And at every elected official, we follow you because you, the people, get it. LNG, no. Renewable now. LNG, no. Renewable now. LNG, no. Renewable now. And let me close by saying this. From Port Ambrose to get to Long Beach, to get to the mainland, to get to the island, there's no genie that blinks it in there. There are miles and miles of lines that they're going to have to put across our ocean floor. That's not an artificial reef. That's going to hurt any fishing beds. That's going to hurt commerce. That's going to hurt the environment. That's going to hurt Long Beach. That's going to hurt the city. That's going to hurt the areas I represent. South Shore needs to be protected. Thank you very much. We will win.
Thanks, Dave. That was great, man. Thanks a lot. That was fun. All right. We're going to get through all these speakers. Again, Long Beach, for the second time in, I think, like 5 years, came out, sent a letter to the governor saying they didn't want this. So we're going to hear from Anthony Eramo from the city of Long Beach.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. I'm joined here with two of my fellow council members, Fran and Len, and I think, and I'm here. I don't even think this is working, right?
No, it's not.
It makes you feel better.
It looks good. All right, but I'm here bringing the unanimous opposition to this LNG terminal, and I'm representing the 35,000 residents that live in Long Beach, but there are about 50,000 residents on the barrier island of Long Beach Island. Just a couple things. I'll be brief. We are happy to report that we sent a letter to extend the public comment period, and that has been granted. So it is extended for 90 days. So with that, we need to continue with encouraging our friends, family, and neighbors to send letters in opposition. Walking past the hallway there, I saw a lot of my brothers. I saw a lot of union members here. I'm a union member. I'm proud to be a union member. But these are not the jobs we need. These are absolutely not. This is going to create a handful. I think we've calculated six jobs. Six potentially jobs. What we need are to create jobs in the green industry. And that includes conservation. There is a lot of work that can be done on people's homes to conserve energy that we are wasting. There is a lot of work. And the other point I wanted to make is that we really just need to move away from fossil fuels. Everybody here knows that. We can't move backwards. Our children and our children's children are counting on us to save the planet. And that sounds really idealistic, but I truly believe that we cannot continue to pollute and use these fossil fuels. So thank you for coming. Thank you for having me. And let's kill this thing.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. So all along the road to get Long Beach to send that letter, the Central Long Island chapter of Surfrider Foundation was there. We're going to hear from Jeremy Thornton really quickly. And we have another elected leader that's here too. Cool. Todd just walked in the room.
Okay. Come on in, Todd.
Come on in. We got to go quick.
So I'm going to make this really quick, and I'm throwing this challenge out to follow Todd Kaminsky's lead in the Long Beach City Council and the city manager's lead to the other government agencies that aren't here today to step up, the town of Hempstead, town of Oyster Bay. We heard about all the issues around security, around the environmental. Step up write a letter and get to the governor and follow their suit, and let's ban LNG now.
Right on. Thank you, Jeremy. Okay. Don't print this, but Assemblyman Kaminsky probably drove at 90 miles an hour from Albany to get here. Okay. Would you like to say something really quick, Assemblyman? And then we're going very quickly. Thank you.
I'm going to make this very quick because our voices need to be heard in there more than they do in here, and we need to get over there. But I'm really proud that we could all stand together on this. If we don't stand up for ourselves right now and make our voices heard, we may render ourselves irrelevant. Remember, this is a very tricky process. If people do nothing, it happens, right? If people let this go, it happens. So we need to make someone affirmatively stand up and say no. And now is when the governor's office in Albany, the governor's office in Trenton, the agencies in Washington, D.C., today is the day where they will say, how do the people down in the district feel about this? And someone in this room will report back they're mad as hell. And so it's our job today to send that message far and wide, and let's go do that, okay?
Thank you. Okay, great. You heard a little bit about the connection to climate. We're going to hear more from Jess Roff, who's right there, about the connection to climate change. Go.
Hi, I'm Jessica Roff. I'm with Catskill Mountainkeeper. I'm the downstate regional organizer for New Yorkers Against Fracking, and I'm not going to repeat what everybody's been saying, so I'm going to be a little bit more brief than I was planning. But basically, we all know we got really lucky, right? Governor Cuomo joined us, and he banned fracking in New York State. But the fact of the matter is, regardless of whether this is for import or for export, this terminal, if this gets approved, this is us getting fracked. This is infrastructure. This is natural gas. Natural gas is methane. Methane is a potent greenhouse gas. It's up to 86 times more potent than carbon. We cannot afford to keep just talking about carbon anymore. It took us 50 years to have this conversation. We do not have another 50 years to figure out methane. We need to talk about this now, because the more greenhouse gases trapped in the atmosphere, the more the temperatures rise, the more the ocean gets heated, the more the sea levels rise. We all lived through Hurricane Sandy. We've all seen the devastation. If we stand here 2+ years after Hurricane Sandy and don't address the fact that our energy choices are making our climate more and more dangerous for us, that is the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different answer. Now is the time to make that transition. We move away from the fossil fuels that are exacerbating climate change and making our lives more difficult, and we move to those safe, clean, renewable jobs that are local, that are union, that are ongoing, and that will keep our communities whole. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Jess. Okay, moving to the South Shore of Long Island, we have Jim Brown from the Southshore Audubon Society. Jim, someone has to hold his sign for him?
Here, I'll hold it.
There you go. Excellent.
Just briefly, I'm Jim Brown. I'm Conservation Chair of the Southshore Audubon Society. We're a chapter of the National Audubon Society that represent over 1,700 people in Long Island. And a number of years ago, there was these projects arose off the South Shore. The first one was actually Port Insanity, which was the Atlantic Sea Island port. And they've come again and again. These projects are like vampires. They arise continually. Hopefully, after this one is defeated, with all of the different organizations and people fighting it, we will end these deep water ports forever. Not only is this a production of natural gas, this gas is even worse than the average, quote-unquote, normal natural gas. The life cycle of this gas, it has to be mined, it has to be cooled, it has to be transported, it has to be regasified. That makes it 40% worse than normal natural gas. These deep water ports have no reason to exist. It's time to end them once and for all. Now, Port Ambrose would be bad for the environment, people, and as an Audubon member, I have to say, for birds. The National Audubon Society has studied 588 North American species of birds, and it's known that global warming, sea level rise, change in habitats will put more than half of these species at risk. Many New York birds, some of them may be even made extinct because of this over-reliance on fossil fuels. So as our sign over there says, with LNG, with Port Ambrose, don't permit it, and veto it. So let's testify tonight, and hopefully this will be the end of these vampiric facilities. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Jim. All right. We're fortunate to have somebody here that is combing through the EIS and finding all the inconsistencies and inaccuracies, and it's Anthony Rodgers, Wright from Environmental Action. Quick round. All right.
How's everybody doing? Thank you so much for being here. Like he said, I'm Anthony Rodgers, Wright, the Policy and Organizing Director with Environmental Action. And I just briefly want to talk about many of the inconsistencies in this drafted environmental impact statement. I could go on and on because there's so many. But, one of the things that they say is that, as we discussed, that they were going to create about 685 to 800 jobs. We know that that's only going to be 6 jobs. And that's just too high a price to pay for the climate-killing gases that would be unleashed into our atmosphere, okay, and affect our nearby communities. And in speaking of communities, I really want to speak specifically about certain communities. I'm really glad that Councilman Donovan's here because he was part of the effort that welcomed the People's Climate March to New York City, and that climate march was led by frontline communities of color that for too long have been disproportionately impacted by projects just like these. Now let's get into the heart of what the EIS says, because this is what Liberty is trying to hide. In addition to who their financial backers are and who they even are, they're lying with numbers, and it just doesn't make sense. It's what I call ambiguous arithmetic. All right, this EIS has more holes in it than the Knicks perimeter defense, and it just doesn't add up. But let's get to the numbers. Let's get to the numbers. They said that the area, okay, is only 36.3% minorities, and that is just a lie. And this is what they did. They did not include Latinos and Hispanics as minorities, okay? And that just doesn't make any sense. When you include Latinos and Hispanics, the area is more like 55.1% people of color who are going to be disproportionately impacted by this project, okay? We just can't let that happen, and that's why we have to convince our wise governor to veto this project. So thank you for being here. Let's go make our voices heard.
Okay. All right. One other thing about the process. We've heard about the process. We know the process is bad. Claudia Borecky from the Coalition of Nassau Civic Association is going to talk more about the process. Go. And quick.
Okay, Long Islanders need to know how this will impact the safety and security of our communities, which this EIS fails to address. Further, Long Islanders need a hearing on our barrier island, so the people most directly affected by this port will understand how it will impact their lives. Since your scoping hearing a year ago, $125 million has been granted to mitigate our coastline. There are plans underway to literally move mountains, underwater mountains, to prevent damage from extreme weather events. And here they come by and basically turning their backs on Long Island. They're saying, we will ignore all the work you've done to protect your shoreline. We will dig up your underwater mountains and lay our pipeline anyway. We will ignore all the work you've done in retraining your first responders to protect your families and will not address this issue in this report. And since 9/11, while our Southshore communities stand naked and unprotected from very real terrorist threats, we will ignore the security of your communities and expect your Coast Guard to protect our financial interests instead. So today, you are turning your backs on our South Shore communities by intentionally holding only one hearing far away from the boardwalk that wasn't even finished during the last hearing, far away from the communities that Port Ambrose will impact. So, in coming out with an environmental impact study during the holiday season with the hope that people were not paying attention is certainly not acting in good faith or in the public's best interest. People need to know more, need more time to learn how this will affect our communities. We need at least another 90 days to review the study so that public can have meaningful input on this proposed LNG port. As a member of the Coalition of Nassau Civic Associations, which members include civics that represent thousands of people from all over Nassau County, we respectfully requesting that they stop ignoring us. We are stronger than we are a year ago. We are a resilient people, a determined people, and we demand a hearing on Long Island where you can hear from our South Shore communities, the people who will be most impacted by Port Ambrose. Further, we're requesting that the public comment period be extended for another 90 days. We cannot allow the Long Island voice to be silenced in this manner. You cannot turn our backs on us anymore.
Right. All right, before our last speaker, it was going to be really great. I want people to know that they can get collateral stickers and stuff on the side once the room clears out. If there's any members of the press in here, I have releases you can get. The final word goes to Patrick Robbins from Sane Energy, and he's going to talk about renewables, the reality of renewables.
Great. Thank you so much, John. I'm from Sane Energy Project, and I want to say that at Sane Energy Project, we believe that the communities that are impacted most by these projects must have the final say in the decision-making process, and that's why I've been so inspired to see everyone from Long Beach and Long Island coming out and vocally opposing this project every time. It's been really inspiring getting to know everyone, so thank you all so much for that. This is a critical moment for our energy future in New York State. Port Ambrose has been proposed in the same location that the Bureau of Ocean and Energy Management is currently considering setting aside for offshore wind power. There are projects proposed that would build capacity up to 700 megawatts. From the climate perspective, that's the equivalent of taking hundreds of thousands of cars off the road. And the U.S. Department of Energy has said that wind in this area has the potential to create 40,000 jobs by 2030. And we need those jobs. You want to talk about jobs? Those are the jobs that we need, real jobs. And if you look at the numbers, this is the path that the New York City government and that the New York State has set for itself. In order to meet their stated goals, we have to build that power now. And that's the choice that faces us today. You know, we can go down the path of Port Ambrose, fossil fuels, and disastrous climate change, or we can put our communities to work with the jobs that we desperately need and secure New York's place at the helm of the energy economy of the future. Thank you so much.
All right, everybody, thanks. Let's get into that hearing. And again, if there's members of the press that need a release, come and see me.
Are they allowing us to take the signs in?
I would try. I don't know about those windmills, but good job. Thanks for getting here just in time. Woo!
See for the hearing, can I just repeat what I said?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they don't. I know people were talking about it. I don't believe so.
I'm looking for their flyers and talking points.
I know they were talking about it. I don't believe it's here. You have a card? Is there a card?
I don't have a card now.
Can you? And then this way I can keep you in the loop of what's going on with my emails.
I think it was 12 people, and I think they're dead.